So I'm going to walk you through doing some Ghost Party mods today. If you found this video, you probably are going to be making a Ghost Party quilt or are planning one. Maybe you have started one or have finished one, maybe want to make another one. I have a pile of quilts that I'm going to kind of talk through different mods for the Ghost Party quilt. I'll probably insert a few pictures of mods that I have done, maybe don't have the quilt anymore, or that maybe some of you have done. I'll see what I can find. Some of these mods are in the pattern in a bonus pattern. When you download the Ghost Party pattern, it comes with 3 downloads. The Ghost Party pattern instructions with all the cutting instructions and the piecing instructions. Then there is a second download that has all the FPP pattern pieces. They're completely optional. You can make the whole quilt minus the stars traditionally, but the stars are only FPP. And then there are some FPP pieces for some of the points and stuff. And I do talk about that in this video. And then there is a bonus download that has some of the mods with cut lists, including a couple different sizes. Not all of them are in there. And the one I'm going to start with is the one that I kind of came up with this year, which is kind of like little twinkly star eyes. But first, before we get into the mods, I'm Kristen. I am the face and pattern designer behind Woolly Petals. I create mostly quilt patterns, but I've dived into some stuffed animal patterns lately, of which I've sewn for most of my adult life / over 13-year-old life. And so those are taking the internet by storm, at least to me, because, you know, small time little pattern designer here. And I'm so glad you found me. I hope you really enjoy the Ghost Party quilt and will share it on social media and tag me, because I always love to see what everybody makes with it, and tell your friends about it. So let's get into those mods. I am getting this quilt on the long arm, and I thought it would be the perfect time to share a little bit about this new little eye version I did. I'm calling it like Twinkle Eyes or Twinkle Star Eyes. This is the tiny star, the FPP pattern from the Ghost Party quilt. And I made the FPP star, and then I cut it down to the size of the eye that you're supposed to cut in the pattern. So this was originally a square, and I cut it down to size. The trick when you cut is to make sure wherever the star is, you have a spot that you can note when you're cutting to make sure that the eyes match where they are placed when you cut them. You could also use a larger square with the tiny star from my To the Stars FPP pattern to give you a little bit more play of where the star lands on the eye. I like it to be slightly off center. You can see this is slightly off center, and I would prefer it to be slightly up higher, which you'll see on a different star. But with the constraints of the square stars in the pattern, they're already sized to be the size of this square. There's not much play with where the actual star goes. So that's the only thing. What I actually did with this is when I made it, I didn't cut the FPP background out to size for the square, and I was able to play with the placement a little bit better. Another option that you can do is a embroidered starry twinkle eye, and you can see the placement on this is a little bit higher up to the right hand corner. And how I did this is I just drew a star on the actual Ghost Party block after it was finished, and I hand embroidered over it. You could do just the outline of the star and not embroider it like a drawn star, or you could fill that in with a satin stitch so that it is a solid white star. I just used a pencil to draw it. It is a little bit hard to see, so if you struggle with that and don't have a bright light to help you see where you hand drew your star, use a contrasting marker pencil that goes away with washing. And lastly, on this boon, I put them all on boons. I did felt stars. So I just hand drew a small little star, similar size to the pieced stars from the pattern. And then I copied it onto felt. Actually pinned the star onto felt and cut it out. You could actually draw it on freezer paper and iron the freezer paper to the felt and cut it out. And then I just hand stitched it down, which in hindsight, I would have rather have done like a whip stitch around the edge so you don't see those stitches in the middle. But from a distance, you do not see them. And that has a twinkle eye effect too. I personally like the pieced eye the best, but it does take the most time, not too much time. I can piece one of these stars in 5 to 10 minutes. Granted, my own pattern, I wouldn't say you're going to do it that fast when you first start FPPing or start the stars. The least amount of time is probably this one because you just have to draw the star onto the eye and then you embroider over it. This one is also not a lot of time, but a little bit more because you have to cut the stars out of felt and then stitch them on. But overall, having some twinkle-eyed ghosts is kind of a fun little mod to your Ghost Party quilt. You could even do the embroidered stars or the felt stars after it's fully pieced, even after it's quilted. If you do a dense, maybe long arm quilting where the stitches are there's a lot of stitches in the eyes, I don't know that I would do it. But if you're doing a looser, more loosely quilted, you could definitely add those after the fact. So the next mod is the pumpkin expansion pack, which is an additional pattern to purchase in my Etsy shop. It includes 3 pumpkin sets. So this is number 1, and you just have a plain pumpkin. This is the stem that sits in front of the upper pumpkin, and this pumpkin says boo in it, just cut out like a carved pumpkin, and of course your stem here. And depending on the colors you use will determine how much you see the stems pop out from the pumpkin and the background. This is the second set of pumpkins, and you have a patchwork version on top as well as a sawtooth star version on the bottom. Again, a darker color inside, so it gives the illusion that you cut out the sawtooth star from the pumpkin. And then the last set is a solid pumpkin on top and the patchwork pumpkin on the bottom, which, like I said before, you can mix and match any bottom pumpkin with any top pumpkin. So that makes it easy to kind of customize your pumpkins for your quilt. They fit in the same space as a ghost block, and the pumpkin expansion pack does tell you how to sew each pumpkin and then just how to integrate it into your quilt, which just basically you're replacing a ghost block with a pumpkin block in your quilt. One of the other mods that I have done, and I've shared all of these, but this is a quilt with stars in the background. The ghosts are all just normal ghosts, but occasionally I replaced 4 background squares with a single star square. And this is a larger size star from my To the Stars pattern. The To the Stars FPP pattern is, let me think, I can never remember the exact amount of stars. I believe there's 7 block sizes. So like this is the size of a block, and each block size comes with the option to do a large star or a tiny star in the middle. So you end up getting like 14 different stars. And you can see over here, I threw one up in the background here. So the difference with this mod is that it does help if you lay out all the blocks on a design board, so then you can take away like these 4 squares and swap in one large square with a single star into those spaces. The other way to do it, like in this spot, maybe not because it's part of the ghost, but for any of the other spots, you could just literally sew up only the ghost squares here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 4. And I would even leave this on and just have it in the background. So you could sew up all the ghosts, and then you could lay the ghosts out with all the background squares in between, replacing background squares as desired with these larger stars in the background. Now, a couple people this year have done that with like fussy cut squares, not even stars. And they have also done that in the body of your ghost by replacing a larger section or even a vertical or horizontal rectangle with fussy cut fabric, which I think is very cute. And I think you can probably see those on some of the hashtags, Ghost Party Quilt, or Ghost Party Sew Along 2025. I was just looking to see, I still do have a mix of the small stars in here as well, but the bigger square stars just kind of play into the patchworky vibe and also take away a little bit of the stress of making so many of the little stars, because if you make the little stars as the pattern calls for, you're making 30 of these. Once you get going and get used to them, they go really quickly, but 30 stars is no small feat. So I don't blame you if you don't do stars. You can also do applique stars, which I don't think I have an example of that anymore. It's possible. This is some more mods. Now these mods are in the bonus file that comes with your Ghost Party purchase. In case you are not used to Etsy, they now send one file attached to your email, but if you go to the View Files button within your email, you have to be on a web browser, not in the app, and logged into your Etsy. You will have access to all the files that are included in any of your pattern purchase, because a lot of my patterns have multiple files. And that's due to the fact that Etsy only allows a certain size limit as well as a quantity limit for files uploaded to a digital purchase. Back to the quilts though. This is the mouse version that's trademarked. This is a bonus within the pattern. This is not even included in the original pattern. It was added several years later. It's been available with the pattern since September 5th, 2024. And if you purchase before then, you can message me on Etsy with your order number, and I'll send you the link to the bonus file that has the mouse ghost with ears. The eyes are a little bit different shape. You can see this is the original shape of eyes, and this one is set in the middle. Pardon me, but I do not remember. I made this last year when I did that mod, and I don't remember what I ended up putting in the pattern. Okay, then, oh, here's another Mickey version over here with just all ghost. So it has the ghost fabric eyes as well. You can kind of see, so this one is very small. It's just 4 ghosts. It's a great kid-size quilt, lap quilt. You could add additional squares for a border to make it a little bit bigger, but this one, I did have fun with the quilting, and I did, this says Ghost Party. There's Mickey down here, heart eyes. So I did loops, but then I did words throughout as well with my free motion quilting on my long arm, which is a fun technique. You could also do this loopy quilting on a domestic. I did it on a domestic before I had a long arm for years. And also letters are pretty easy to do on smaller things on a domestic. It's much easier to do a larger quilt on a long arm. This is the other mod in the bonus with heart eyes, and they fit in the same space as just a regular square of the regular eyes, but they're heart shaped. So I go through the dimensions to cut and written instructions on how to make those In the bonus, if you need to see a visual of how to make the heart eyes, there is one on my Instagram. It is definitely on a reel in 2024, fall of 2024, but I believe it's saved in a highlight as well. And actually, I'm not sure it's on a reel. Man, sometimes my brain just doesn't remember the fine details. But the heart eyes are a lot of fun. It's just basically snowballed corners on these red rectangles, and then you sew it together and snowball the bottom and then add this little side. So those are some fun mods. One of the fun things I think about the Ghost Party is that you can make it with whatever fabrics you choose, which is where the Ghost in a Garden quilt came around. I made this quilt my first year with the pattern, and I don't remember exactly the origin story of why I decided to do a Ghost in the Garden, but I had so much fun with it that I ended up making kits every year since. I think the kits might be done with. They are a lot of work to like get all the fabrics for because I'm not a fabric shop. I would definitely say this quilt has something like 40 to 50 floral fabrics. And if you do that many fabrics, you do not need a lot of background fabric. And you can see there's no stars in this too. You could definitely do stars. I have had a couple people make the Ghost in the Garden kits with stars and they look phenomenal. It's very busy though, and I liked just the look of it feels like a garden. So I did not do stars on this one, but you don't need very much fabric. You could just cut squares all year long of any floral fabric. Like if I was pulling a floral fabric for something else that had a similar size square or piece, you could just cut a few squares, put it back in your wall of fabric if you have that, or your bins, and put those squares aside until you have enough to make a Ghost in the Garden quilt. This quilt stays out on my screen and porch pretty much all year long. I did put a darker background. It's pieced on it just because of that. It will get dirty out on the screen and porch, gets dusty and stuff. It gets washed occasionally, but it's so cozy, so full of color. I have people make this and say that they leave it on their sofas all year long, and that makes me so happy. But I wanted to share because this is not Halloween fabric, and I think that's very interesting to get a Halloween quilt without Halloween fabric. I also wanted to share the version I did this year, which you probably have seen, and I'll put a picture of it in here. If you're on Instagram at all, because this is in the So Long from 2025 Instagram lives every week. But this is a mashup of my Ghost Party quilt, as well as the capped quilt, which is the mushrooms. They have a similar patchwork background vibe. The mushrooms in the pattern are also fully patchwork as well. And they happen to be the same size squares as the ghosts, which led me to mocking this up originally in pinks and yellows, very light. And then this year I decided I wanted a fall vibes Ghost Party quilt. So there are 1, 2, 3, that's one block though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mushrooms, because there's one over here, and then there's 4 ghosts. And I just did all boons, but some of the boons have a mouth. 2 of the boons have a mouth, this one, and 2 will have just the embroidered mouth. This is Jack's mouth, which that's a good example of you can move around the mouth and the eyes to whatever configuration you want. I have had people make blocks. Somebody recently tagged me in it where she has eyes all over her ghosts. Some people have put the eyes together. Some people put them wide set. It's so customizable because you can just replace something with a square, or you can alter where the eyeball goes, take away the mouth, whatever. Getting back to this quilt though, this is also checkerboard background. So that is a tricky design where you definitely need to plan this out on the coloring sheet, because each ghost block may end up being different checkerboard where the black and the orange on this quilt are, where when you're making with just an all over background, you can just make those. But to make sure that all the ghosts in the right configuration make the nice checkerboard pattern, you do need to lay this out and follow your plan precisely. I did this with my penguin quilt, and yep, I made 4 blocks in the wrong checkerboard. The background was black and low volume, and the wrong format, so that I ended up having 4 separate blocks, and I was able to make them into a baby quilt, thank you, but I had to make 4 more blocks to fit in the quilt. So the checkerboard is very important to keep an eye on. How I did this quilt is basically I laid out 1 block at a time in the checkerboard pattern, sewed it up, and then I laid out the block next to it. And I continued across my rows all the way down so that I didn't have any issues with my checkerboard, and it worked out. The capped quilt, I ended up taking just the size of what all my squares would be in like the mushroom top on a couple of the mushrooms. That one up there is a solid mushroom as well, which you can easily figure out from the pattern instead of making them checkerboard. Just, you know, add up all the pieces minus the seam allowance to get your size. But doing them checkerboard is a lot of fun as well. But this is a good example of how you can mash up 2 different quilt patterns. I also wanted to share this because there's hardly any Halloween fabric in this quilt. I really wanted to give it an overall vibe of just fall. So like this is technically a Halloween fabric, and this one, and then we've got some bats down here, and some little ghosts, but they work with the ghosts. But overall, as you can see, looking at most of these prints, we have florals and geometrics and quilt blocks and strawberries and free form and owls and stars, polka dots, and it just gives you an overall fall vibe look. So I pulled this one out with a Ghost Party so that you can see more Ghost Party quilts without Halloween fabric, which, let's do a quick swing around. This is a good example of a Halloween quilt. Let's angle up here. But we have non-Halloween fabric mixed in. This is a lot of Rifle Paper Co.'s line from 2024 with a couple extra prints in from their 2025 line, but then I added dinosaurs and I added like cactus and I added more ghosts from Spoonflower. This is from the line, the stripes, but I love that it is just a simple, you know, basic. We have little cat noses and we have like stars, little ghosts drinking coffee. Oh, and pop bottles. So there's a lot mixed in that is not Halloween. I want to encourage you to look beyond just your Halloween fabric. Most of my quilts have a mix of Halloween and not Halloween fabric in them. Most of my Ghost Party quilts. You can see this one almost has no Halloween. There's a few in there, but the color vibe, this one is a very good mix as well with some plaids and lightning bolts. And like the low volumes, I always tend to go less Halloween, but there's plenty of Halloween in here as well. This is a full Halloween line. The tiny frights from Ruby Star, as well as all of their low volumes, but I did have to add some extra low volumes in there just to round it out. I like extra scrappy, but the background, aside from the pumpkins, is completely Tiny Frights by Ruby Star. And then we have Solids, which is my cover quilt. So it's definitely a favorite. This one was quilted by Knot and Thread with an all over print. I hope you're looking at the quilting on all of these too. I do a lot of my quilting myself, so you saw a lot of loops, but cross hatch through the squares is a great look. It's more overall, less dense. Doing an all over pattern with a long armor is beautiful. This is all solids and then low volumes, where hardly any Halloween low volumes. Just the vibe of the color is so fun. Of course, I always recommend you look at all of the hashtags for all of the amazing mods that my lovely community here has made. Some of the mods, like the heart eyes, are from a Ghost Party maker, not from me. They said I would was happy to add into my bonus dimensions, as well as the cat, which I'll put a picture here of the cat mod because I've only made one of those. I wanted to test it for putting the dimensions in the pattern, and that ended up going in the Ghost in a Garden quilt I made this year and gave away. So that one has already flown the coop, but the cat is really fun. I actually saw somebody make a shorter cat. They took out one of the middle rows, and it is so cute. Check out the hashtag Ghost Party Sew Along 2025 because I'm pretty sure it's in that. There is, of course, traditional piecing for the eyes and the mouth, as well as their FPP patterns included with the star pattern, which is all FPP or applique, I guess, so that you can traditionally piece these, or you can FPP just these squares that have the pieced mouth or eyes in it. And also there are FPP pattern pieces for all the sections that have points. You will have to print or copy those a bit, but if you are not used to making HSTs or snowballing or these little snowballs and you prefer FPP, that is a great way to go about the pattern. FPP is always more precise, but I find it a little less quick personally. So I tend to just do traditional piecing. Are over here. Sorry, it's a little bit darker because the light is over here and so it's kind of almost backlit. So these come in the bonus dimensions as well. This is just a single block, which is a great mini to put on your wall. This one is actually getting bound shortly because I have that and the sardine to go up higher on this wall. But these are the 3 additional sizes that are, no, 2 additional sizes. I apologize. This is the original size, just so you can see for scale. And just so you see, these are in the bonus dimensions, the 2 smaller sizes. Somebody has actually made a quilt with this size. And then this is very tiny, but you can see I even ended up doing the snowball corners. Tiny piecing, but so fun. A cute little mug rug if you don't have a lot of room on a mini wall. Great. And then, of course, the larger size, which is the original size. This one actually does have a few applique stars on it, which works out really great for a mini because I just did raw edge applique. You can do a zigzag stitch and applique stitch if you want it to be a little bit more durable. This is from my friend Molly. She made that. So cute. So I wanted to show those minis because it's a fun look at the different sizes. Also available in the bonus dimensions. Definitely check out the Ghost Party Quilt if you have not already. It is one of the most fun quilts to make. I had so much fun designing it, and I'm going to throw, as I'm talking here, a few different finished Ghost Party quilts that I've made. You've probably seen them if you've been around Woolly Petals community land for a while, but man, there's just so many versions and so many versions I still want to make. Like a full one that's all kitties would be amazing. Kitties and pumpkins, one with all heart eyes. Some lovely Ghost Party makers have made, like I said, they've put glasses on them, put mustaches on them, done some really silly versions, bows. Somebody made a Christmas version with Christmas fabric, ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Like, it's just a super fun pattern. And I don't even think you have to be a fan of Halloween to enjoy the ghost. Like, I grew up not really doing Halloween much, and I just think they are so fun. Yes, my own pattern, but I am so thrilled that you guys love them as much as I do. Okay, so that's a lot of mods for the Ghost Party Quilt. Probably not all of them, but I wanted to kind of walk you through planning a Ghost Party Quilt. I love that every one of you loves the Ghost Party Quilt so much. It has really kind of jumped my quilt pattern design career for me and been such an incredible experience. And I just keep tagging me in all these amazing quilts. You can @woollypetals in your caption. You can tag me in the photo. I try to look at the hashtag. Please use the hashtags. It is great inspiration for everybody trying to make a ghost party quilt. I know you guys don't have every day to sew all the time. I don't even have that, and it's my job. So I really appreciate when you pick one of my patterns to sew. It like is the greatest thing when I get tagged in pictures of people making, when I see awesome reviews on Etsy, which is almost 100% of the time. When you guys join into my community events like sew-alongs, which are a lot of work and hard to do. This one in 2025 ended up being very chill, and it was lovely. And I think people kind of really love the chill vibe and atmosphere, as well as just sewing with others. So I'm gonna just scoot over here. Can we see? It's upside down. I was gonna give you a peek of my next stuffy pattern, and this is it. This is one of the versions of Strawberry Pillow. So there'll be a couple different versions too, I believe, as well as several different sizes in each version. They are super, super easy. They look tricky because they're 3D, but this is one of the easiest patterns. I'm still perfecting my leaves. It took me quite a long time to get the shapes of the strawberries right, but I'm super excited, and my goal is to have this to you in November.